Yo, yo, yo! Welcome back. Today we're gonna be reacting to the sad, greedy death of Little Big Planet. Now, this game is the one with the like brown ball of yarn, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, which is a bit like a bad little blog theater. Like this one. It was like this one, right? Okay, never mind. I think I'm wrong. I remember as a kid, I thought these two were similar though. Whatever. Anyways, let's see what happened to the game. Because I remember, like, when it came out, like, people liked it.
The biggest threat to the survival of a beloved game? Is it A, an uncaring developer who's moved on to something else, B, an inattentive publisher who only cares about profits, or C, a ruthless hacker whose only objective is to cause chaos?
Hackers don't really matter unless it's a multiplayer game. If it's a multiplayer game like PUBG, Fortnite, like these types of games, hackers do like severely damage the game because when you die, it's no longer a wait, sorry about this. Let me just make sure I do have like sound. Yeah. But when you die, you don't die because you suck. You don't die because he was better than you. You died because he might have hacks. You know what I mean? So hackers do fuck up games, but it's only when they're online. As far as I know, Little Big Planet was a single player, like a 2D game, I believe.
Little Big Planet, the answer was all three. It went from a staple of Sony's PlayStation consoles with millions of loyal fans to an abandoned mess with dead servers and no plans for a
Isn't
comeback.
this a kids game? How the fuck is he getting minions?
Hi, I'm the Internet Anarchist. I create weekly YouTube documentaries, and today we're taking a closer look at the sad death of Little Big Planet, how it reached the sorry state it's in today.
Wait, what song is that? He has like a Spanish song in the background, doesn't he?
What made it popular in the first place,
Abalone.
and how some people are still hopeful for its return. But as you'll see by the end of this video,
it's an edit.
that's looking increasingly unlikely with each passing day. That said, to
Am I hearing things? Because I don't hear.
fully understand the tragedy of Little Big Planet, we first have to go back to where it all started. Little Big Planet was the brainchild of Alex Evans and Mark Healy, two of the names behind the now legendary Fable. After witnessing a sizable layoff at their company, Lionhead Studio, the two decided to leave with two more of their colleagues and form their own studio, Media Molecule, with their first title being an ambitious platformer that would go on to become Little Big Planet. However, as a ragtag group of artists and programmers, they lacked both the resources and the time to create a fully fledged game, and then simply hope that it will be a success. They needed funding
and it worked, right?
So after some brainstorming, they quickly put together a bare bones demo called Mr. Yellowhead in 2005, which, despite its crude graphics, had a lot of gameplay similarities with the final game. Sony immediately saw the potential in the idea, and after seeing
it's like the typical Flash game you used to play, like a fuck, what was it called? Stickman Flash game? Could I find it with this? Ah, not these. Fuck. It's like 2D, and you just run up hills. It was like a Sonic. Fuck, man. Flash game platformer? No, it's this one. It's this one. Like, it looks similar, no? Let's go back. Like, just the way it moves.
With the final game, Sony immediately saw the potential in the idea,
Never mind,
and after seeing a bit more of the game over the next 6 months, decided to publish it exclusively on the upcoming PlayStation 3 console. Little Big Planet was going to be a platform unlike any other, with a unique, timeless art style, and an emphasis on player creativity and user-generated content. Sony first unveiled it to the public at the 2007 Game Developers Conference, immediately winning the hearts of thousands.
Didn't this come out in like 2010, 15? Because I remember the first time I saw it, I think was No, it was in my phone. Because I remember it was like a YouTube video of someone playing the game. And I got my first phone around 10 years old or so. Fuck, release date. 2008? Dude, has it really been that long? I feel like it's only been like 6 years at most.
Who couldn't wait to get their hands on the game.
Well, isn't it crazy how far
However,
video quality has come? Because I remember like videos looking like this. This was it wasn't 240. Like before it was 480, right? The maximum. Then came 720 and finally 1080. Or was it 360? Like one of these two was the baseline, I'm pretty sure. Then they like upgraded to 720 and 180 later on.
However, Sony wanted it to be ready by the end of the year, including the fully fleshed out level editor. It was hard work, but Media Molecule persevered, managing to deliver on each one of their promises.
I was gonna say, it looks a bit like Steam, doesn't it? Like the balls with like things coming out, kind of thing.
At the game's launch in October of 2008, and the players couldn't have been happier. It sold millions of copies,
nice,
was adored by the critics, and for a good reason. It had everything players wanted and more. The art style was just incredibly charming, the platforming mechanics were tuned to perfection,
yeah, I remember
it had
liking
some of the most
it
versatile character customization options at the time, and most importantly, the level editor was just as feature-rich and intuitive as everyone had hoped. Okay. However, the feature that turned Little Big Planet from just another fun game to
multiplayer? Yeah, that's the only way a hacker can fuck up the game.
A cultural phenomenon was its accompanying website, lbp.me. After logging in with their PlayStation Network account, players could share their own creations or dive into an ever-growing library of levels made by others.
I see. So the hacker didn't hack the game, he hacked the website and made it unplayable. Okay, that makes more sense. Because if you can't play new levels because the site is down, you pretty much just forget about the game.
Simply, there was an essentially endless supply of fresh content. Within just a year of the game's launch, players had already uploaded over 1 million unique levels, collectively playing them more than 240 million times. What players didn't know at the time was that this website would also become a big reason for the game's downfall. But for the time being, it was what kept players hooked long past a typical platform.
Like, it's an external website, first of all. You have to know there's a website like this, right? Because if it's integrated into the game, where you can like download and find these like maps inside the game, it's fine. But like it's annoying to have to like exit the game, go to like Google, Little Big Planet fan maps. Like, would I find it with this? No, even with this, I can't find like this website, unless it's like down or whatever. But it's like you're having players go through multiple hoops just to get here. That alone is gonna limit the amount of like players who keep playing the game after they're done with like the base game itself.
The shelf life. Media Molecule also kept working on the game, patching out bugs, adding new cosmetic options, and releasing DLC content to keep fans happy. And it worked, with a review from back in the day stating, "Little Big Planet is perfect. It's as simple as that." What these satisfied players didn't realize was that their favorite game was about to become a whole lot better. The explosive success of Little Big Planet gave Media Molecule the confidence to start working on a sequel.
Wait, could this be the one I saw? Maybe I didn't see the original. Maybe I saw Little Big Planet 2. Yeah, 2011. Okay, this was the one I saw in like YouTube or something. when it came out.
Immediately after the first game's release. However, players weren't as enthusiastic about a sequel as you might imagine, and the reason was simple.
They don't need it.
The level editor. Many had poured countless hours into crafting over 3 million unique levels by this point. If the new game was incompatible with their creations, all their hard work would have gone to waste. This wouldn't have just hurt the sequel's sales, it risked splitting the Little Big Planet community into two. Those eager to explore the new tools and mechanics, and those unwilling to abandon the treasure trove of player-made content they'd come to love. Fortunately,
guys, you can do both. You can play the new one, see how it is. Is it better? Is it worth switching over? It's not? Okay, I'll go back and keep playing like the fan-made levels. Oh, it's better? Everything's better? Okay. You know, these people, they're gonna create levels again in the new one if it's better. So it's not like you're gonna be missing out, realistically. And a lot of people are probably just gonna like port the old like layout into the new game.
Media Molecule understood this challenge better than most, and spent a lot of resources looking for a solution. Then, on the 10th of May 2010, they announced Little Big Planet 2, showcasing the sheer amount of variety that was possible with the new level editor. The new and improved creative toolset allowed players to create not just platforming levels, but entirely different game genres, with Media Molecule like, going as far as to claim that it wasn't just a quote platform game.
I think Geometry Dash has something like this, where it's like you're still moving left and right, so it's still technically a platformer, right? But the background makes it seem like you're playing like a 3D game. I think I've seen that in Geometry Dash.
Instead, was going to be, quote, a platform for games. Above all, they reassured the fanbase that Little Big Planet 2 would be fully backwards compatible with the previous title. The game finally came out in January of 2011, and to no one's surprise, quickly became the favorite of both the critics and longtime players.
The first Little Big Planet game was great. It was amazing. It was the start of an awesome community, and it did some really creative things. It gave people a ton of tools to work with to create some great levels.
Oh wait, so it is multiplayer, right? Because I'm seeing multiple people. So what did the hacker fuck up?
If you take a look at its sequel, there's really no reason to go back.
It was the perfect sequel, which made everything better without destroying what players loved about the original. This also resulted in it becoming a massive financial success, selling over 350,000 copies in its first couple of weeks, and becoming the 4th most sold game in January 2011. Unfortunately, it was all downhill from here. Now, you'd think that after 2 wildly successful releases, Media Molecule would keep the momentum going and knock the 3rd entry out of the park.
Like
However, before players had the chance to get their hopes up, they received devastating news. Media Molecule was handing over the development of the 3rd game to
Sony. Because you need a PlayStation Network or whatever. That's what Sony, right?
Wait. Different studio, Sumo Digital, a studio that had little experience with the franchise. This was going to be an uphill battle. Not only did Sumo have to improve upon the already fantastic Little Big Planet 2, they had to do it while keeping it backwards compatible with the millions of levels players created for the previous 2 games. And since they were replacing a respected studio, they also risked angering the existing fans with even the tiniest mistake.
So they didn't create something new. They just remade the game with like new levels, right? I'm guessing that's what's gonna happen.
Fortunately for Sumo, things did not get off to a good start. They drastically cut down the scope of the game, removing several characters, storylines, and planned features from the 3rd game. And if that wasn't bad enough, Sony stepped in and made things even worse. Instead of helping the studio with more time and resources, Sony barged in one day and ordered them to make a version for the upcoming PlayStation 4 as well. In other words, Sumo now had to create 2 different versions of the game they were already struggling to complete in time. This was catastrophic for the game's development, something that would become apparent the second it was released to the public. Little Big Planet 3 came out in November of 2014, and it was by far—
Did this game die on arrival? Because I don't remember Little Big Planet 3. When did it come out? (2014). It's really strange, isn't it? No, not video images. I don't think I've ever seen this one.
Far the glitchiest, most unfinished entry into the franchise. Players were struggling to play user-generated levels, and in many instances, wiping their save files was the only way to get past the error message. And this was just the tip of the iceberg. Sometimes the game crashed bad enough to nearly brick the console it was running on. Sumo tried to fix these glitches with patches, but the core issues never went away. With one angry player on Reddit writing, 1 year later, and LittleBigPlanet 3 is still broken. This is unacceptable. The online barely functions, and there's still glitches where I fell off levels. On top of that, there's still many crashes. The broken game was turning longtime.
So, this is the death of LittleBigPlanet 2, but you can still play the second one, can't you? And the first one? So how exactly would... Oh, yeah, never mind. Because you need the website to play player-made games, right? So I'm guessing something happened to the website, and that's why... Even though, like, because, yeah, this one's trash, okay, whatever, who cares? Just go back to, you know, the second and the first. Those are good.
Plays away from the franchise, with one such person voicing his disappointment, stating, "Man, this game makes me so depressed. I loved the first two so much. Used LittleBigPlanet 2 to propose to my wife, and I was so excited for this one. We haven't touched it in months."
But, Dumper, he used LittleBigPlanet twice. Oh, dude, what am I saying?
I have never been let down so hard as I was by this game. But this begs the question, why? Why did Media Molecule abandon its star franchise to a third-party studio? Well,
it probably didn't belong to them, right? Didn't they say, like, they were with Sony? So it probably belonged to Sony. Sony didn't like how, like, they weren't making as much profits as they wanted them to. So they just gave it to someone else?
When asked about it, the studio's community manager stated that they made this decision so that they could focus on their next big project called Dreams. This was a full-blown
Never heard of this.
Engine that allowed users to make everything from games and animations to music, all on their PS4. Admittedly, this was the next evolution of the creative tools the studio built for LittleBigPlanet 2, but them abandoning the franchise that made them popular in the first place was still the wrong move in many people's eyes. Some might even argue that it would have been better if the third game just never came out, and instead, those resources were spent on updating and maintaining the second one. Despite its poor reception, however, its availability on 2 consoles instead of just 1 significantly boosted the game's financial performance, allowing it to sell over 5.5 million copies to date. In an ideal...
It doesn't matter because they said they were releasing like what they called microtransactions or whatever, right? Like skins and shit like that in the first one. Probably in the second one as well. So yeah, you're gonna get a big initial like boost of money, but because people weren't gonna play it for longer than like a day or two, you're gonna lose the, you know, the passive income of like releasing skins and shit like that.
World, these high sales figures would directly translate to more players making...
Like, imagine you get these sales figures and your game's good. So people keep playing, you release skins, they buy those skins, like you release like more shit, they keep buying those. Like, it's a failure.
More content and extending its shelf life. Unfortunately for the fans, LittleBigPlanet 3 was about to face a challenge far more devastating than the occasional game-breaking bug. In November of 2022, LBP.me, the website cataloging user-generated levels, went down after an attack from unknown hackers. And
dude, how the fuck do you have your games like main multiplayer thing, which is the only reason people keep playing your games, it seems, by the way? How do you have that in an external website and not in your game, in the servers in your game? Like most people do, like with MMOs, like they have servers and shit like that in the game, not outside. How do you have that?
While the site was restored shortly after...
I mean, it was 2011, right? So
This marked the beginning of its total destruction. You see, the solution Media Molecule came up with for backwards compatibility was to host all of the information on the same server. This made it easier to keep track of player statistics across
but if you hack the server, you can hack like all of them, right?
3 different entries. However, even though this method was highly effective, it also came with a serious drawback. Any security vulnerability from the original 2008 Little Big Planet now affected everything that followed. Judging by the sudden website blackout, it was clear that someone had found a way to exploit that vulnerability. And as expected, the hacker returned on the 6th of March 2021 and shut down the game's online functionality with a DDoS attack. Anyone who tried to play a user-generated level was met with an error message stating that a problem had occurred. After staying silent for 4 days, Sumo finally took the servers down on March the 10th, claiming that they did so to, quote, investigate some technical issues. These servers remained offline till May, but even after coming back online, things weren't right. Players were experiencing strange crashes.
So did the hacker not try to like blackmail them into giving him money or something? I don't understand. Because especially Sony, like people are still playing the first and the second. Those are good numbers for like investors and shit, like, right? That's why there's like an investors think that they're like, oh, we have 3 million like active users, 3 million unique logins. Oh, like, don't they always use like users and player numbers to like reassure investors that they're doing a good job? So losing like these 2 games, I feel like that's not good for them, right?
And glitches that were never an issue before. The cycle of Sumo taking the servers down, bringing them back online, and getting attacked by hackers continued a couple of times before coming to a stop in April of 2024.
They removed it
Not because Sumo patched the vulnerability, but because they decided to pull the plug, shutting servers down for good and killing the game completely. The franchise that had held strong for over 15 years was finally dead in the water. Some fans tried to protest this decision online to no avail. They had nowhere left to go. Well, technically, there was one game they could still
Mario
play,
Maker.
a spin-off called Sackboy: A Big Adventure, which came out in November of 2020.
Wait, Sackboy. Why does that sound familiar?
Unfortunately, this version of the game lacked the one feature that made Little Big Planet special in the first place: user-generated content, resulting in most fans seeing this spin-off as an insult and hating it with a passion, with one person even equating it to receiving a middle finger from the developers and Sony. In the end, seeing such a beloved game go out like this is just sad.
That one was in the PS4 as well, I'm pretty sure.
As a YouTube comment puts it, as much as I'm devastated to see it gone, I think what's even sadder is that I will always see Little Big Planet as something that was killed rather than something that just died on its own. There were better ways to handle this than wiping the servers and converting millions upon millions of user-created levels to nothing more than lost media. That being said, some fans are still clinging to hope. Some are wildly speculating based on job listings at Sumo Digital. Others are hatching elaborate plans to resurrect the game themselves.
Realistically, even if they try to remake it, people are already like over with the studio. What they'd have to do, what Sony would have to do, is give the game back to the original studio from the first and second one. That way, like the fans are like, wait, they're back? Oh my god, you get the fans hyped up. Even though like the people in the original studio aren't there anymore, they're like retired or they moved to a different studio. So realistically, there's like no difference between them and whatever like this company is, Sumo or whatever. Sumo. Even though like there's no real difference since most people have left the other company by now probably. It's still hype people up. If it's these guys making it, people are not gonna like it. They already feel betrayed. Why would you waste your money on something that can die like instantly, be full of glitches? Like fuck your PC, not PC, PlayStation. It's just not worth. The hacker thing, I still can't believe like Sony let this happen. Like, you really let your like the thing keeping your games alive die that easily? Then again, what if like everyone is talking about, yeah, Little Big Planet is so good, I play it all the time, but they're not actually playing the game. So there was no hacker, it was just Sony decided to shut it down because they were wasting too much money on the servers and they weren't getting any back. That could be a reason, actually, couldn't it? Because servers cost money at the end of the days. That's why like MMOs and those type of games, like big multiplayer games, they try to like squeeze money out of you with skins, cosmetics, all that. Since they need to pay for the servers and, you know, they just want money in general. Yeah. What was that guy's name actually? Like Butt Trump or Dude, I can't find him. Fuck. Is it this guy? Wait.
Way, with one angry player on Reddit writing, 1 year later, only functions, the broken game disappointment, stating,
But Tomper? Like, what the fuck, man? And it is what it is, you know? I mean, there's Mario Maker, which also has like user-generated levels. You can play that. There's, I guess, Minecraft you can play. There's like servers for that, for multiplayer. Roblox has, you know, user-created levels. I also, like, there's a lot of games that you can like move on to. It's not like you have to play Little Big Planet specifically, right? So yeah, that's another thing. Even if it comes out, people have so many like options now when it comes to like platformers and shit like that, that it might not even if they do it perfectly, it might not even like come back or be successful. Success. What, dude? Whatever. Peace.